Chapter 1281, Lord Summon. Jin Feng and Zhu Xi had died one after the other. Golden Sun Sect Master had already begun inspecting why this had occurred. 10 years. For cultivation, 10 years was a short period of time, but for killing people, it was too long. The person who had killed Jin Feng had been able to kill Zhu Xi on the spot, instead of delaying it for 10 years. Therefore, Golden Sun Sect Master was not sure whether it was the same person who had killed Jin Feng and Zhu Xi. Golden Sun Sect Master, Commander Man Yi said again, everything has to be checked out. In my opinion, let's sit down and have a talk. I've already sent a message to my lord. He will immediately arrive. Everything will be clear. Lord of Scarlet Island? Golden Sun Sect Master's eyes narrowed. Although both Lord of Scarlet Island and Golden Sun Sect Master were universe gods at the peak of second heaven, the former was superior to the latter. If Lord of Scarlet Island arrived, Golden Sun Sect Master would be unable to do anything to Jian Wushuang, even if they finally confirmed Jian Wushuang was the killer. Hey, I will find it out. Jian Wushuang, you'd better have nothing to do with Jin Feng's death, otherwise I'll kill you, even if I need to have an all-out fight with Scarlet Island. I'll avenge my son's death. I won't let it go so easily. His frosty voice echoed through the area. Then Golden Sun Sect turned into a golden light and left. Commander Man Yi and other experts sighed with relief. Jian Wushuang also felt relieved. Fortunately, he didn't really want to offend this universe god at the peak of second heaven. The consequences were beyond his imagination. Jin Feng is his son? Jian Wushuang wore an odd expression on his face. No one had expected that Golden Sun Sect Master was Jin Feng's father. It was no wonder that Golden Sun Sect Master was so furious that he personally came to attack Jian Wushuang regardless of his identity. The golden flowing light streaked out of the Scarlet Island military camp and came to a halt until it reached a void above the sea. Golden Sun Sect Master showed up. A black figure appeared next to him. Golden Sun Sect Master, do you really believe that Jian Wushuang has nothing to do with the death of Jin Feng? The black figure smirked. He had been hiding in the distance, so Jian Wushuang had not discovered him. Golden Sun Sect Master responded in a frosty voice. Of course. I don't believe him. Then why did you not kill him? The black figure was astonished. He had been wondering why Golden Sun Sect Master had not attacked Jian Wushuang. He had thought that the Sect Master was powerful enough to deal with it, and even Man Yi was unable to block him. I wanted to kill him just now, but did you really treat Scarlet Island as a fool? Is it really easy to break into their military camp? Golden Sun Sect Master snorted. I already knew that there was a hidden restriction on the Scarlet Island and that Man Yi would activate it at a critical moment. It is powerful enough to kill ordinary second heaven universe gods, so it might hurt me badly. And I planned to quietly catch Jian Wushuang and then leave so that Scarlet Island couldn't do anything to me. I didn't expect that Jian Wushuang had a keen psychic ability and perceived my arrival in advance. If I had fought against him, Man Yi would have activated the restriction. I couldn't endanger my safety, let alone catch Jian Wushuang. I understand. The black figure replied. Although I failed this time, I will eventually avenge my son. Golden Sun Sect Master clenched his hands, then looked at the black figure next to him. How about you? So will my holy prefecture. If there is an opportunity, I will do my best to kill him. The black figure said coldly. That's good. Jian Wushuang can't run. Golden Sun Sect Master's eyes lit up. On Scarlet Island, Commander Man Yi, Jian Wushuang, and the other universe gods gathered. Jian Wushuang, I've told the Lord about what happened here, and he asked you to return to our headquarters immediately. He wants to see you, Commander Man Yi said. The Lord personally summoned me. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Commander Man Yi ordered. Let's go. Us? Jian Wushuang asked, looking puzzled. Commander Man Yi explained. The Holy Prefecture and Golden Sun Sect want to kill you. You might get into trouble on your way to the headquarters, so the Lord asked me to personally escort you back. The commander will personally escort you. Few experts on our island have such special treatment. The other universe gods teased Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Let's go. Commander Man Yi spoke. Then Jian Wushuang and Commander Man Yi set off. The Scarlet Island occupied a vast territory in the Dayu region. There were more than 100 cities, not to mention other special places. The headquarters of Scarlet Island was in the center of Scarlet City. 9-Star Sea was not too far away from the Scarlet City. Escorted by Commander Man Yi, Jian Wushuang had not encountered any enemies on his way. Soon, they arrived at Scarlet City. Once they had arrived, Commander Man Yi immediately led him to visit the Lord of Scarlet Island. In the front of a magnificent golden temple, there was a towering throne. In a white robe, a bald man sat there, barefoot. He wore a kind smile on his round face. It made him appear a kind-hearted man. The smiling bald man was the Supreme Lord of Scarlet Island. Lord. Commander Man Yi bowed to the bald man. I pay my respects to my lord. Jian Wushuang also bowed to the bald man, but he was a bit frightened. Although the bald man was smiling, Jian Wushuang felt more anxious around him than he did around Golden Sun Sect Master. Chapter 1282. A Fight with Universe God Chen. Man Yi, sit down. Lord of Scarlet Island arranged Man Yi to sit next to him, and then he looked over at Jian Wushuang. You are Jian Wushuang? The Lord of Scarlet Island smiled and said, I heard that you killed Zhuge Qiu from the Holy Prefecture? And it was a one-on-one confrontation? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. A universe master killed an advanced first heaven universe god. I wouldn't believe it even if I saw it with my own eyes, the Lord of Scarlet Island said. Lord, what do you mean? Jian Wushuang was surprised. He thought that the Lord would ask him about the issues concerning Zhu Shi and Jin Feng. He did not expect that the Lord would question his strength straight from the beginning of their meeting. I have already arranged an opponent for you, Lord of Scarlet Island said, slightly waving his hand. Whoosh! A figure appeared by the Lord of Scarlet Island. This was a black-clothed middle-aged man who wore a kind smile focused on Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, as he knew this man. You're familiar with this universe god Chen. I heard that when you joined Scarlet Island, it was universe god Chen who personally verified your strength. Lord of Scarlet Island said, laughing. Of course. Jian Wushuang nodded. You two fight in this palace. Just try your best, Lord of Scarlet Island said. Jian Wushuang nodded in unison with universe god Chen. Both of them moved to the center of the palace. Jian Wushuang, the last time you sparred with me, your swordsmanship surprised me. I didn't expect that you were so strong. Today, please show all your skills, universe god Chen said with hearty laughter. I will, Jian Wushuang replied. Jian Wushuang really could not figure out why the Lord of Scarlet Island had asked him to fight universe god Chen again. However, he was glad to fight with a universe god at the peak of first heaven. Both Jian Wushuang and universe god Chen took out their long swords. Let's get started. Universe god Chen dived forward as he casually swung the scarlet longsword in his hand. The casual strike actually contained his divine power. It could apply more pressure to Jian Wushuang than that of an advanced first heaven universe god. Buzz! Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled with killing intent as mighty power surged into his sword. It was soon that he was displaying nirvana. Clang! With a loud boom, Jian Wushuang was forced to step back. I've used my full strength, but his move puts me at an absolute disadvantage. Is a universe god at the peak of first heaven really so powerful? Jian Wushuang was shocked. Jian Wushuang, I heard that when you fought Zhuge Qiu, you used a realm technique to suppress some of his strength. Now let me have a look at your realm technique, universe god Chen said with a smile. You know I have realm techniques. Jian Wushuang's face fell. If that is what you wish. Jian Wushuang immediately took out the gold gourd. At the sight of the gold gourd, the Lord of Scarlet Island's eyes lit up. Then the mighty blaze quicksand surged out and formed a quicksand realm, suppressing universe god Chen. Jian Wushuang had used quicksand realm to suppress 30% of Zhuge Qiu's strength. Apparently, universe god Chen was stronger than Zhuge Qiu, so the realm only suppressed 10% of universe god Chen's strength. Jian Wushuang, be careful. Universe god Chen smiled. He waved his long sword and unleashed a strike which swept toward his opponent like lightning. The sword light fluttered slightly. When it was about to hit Jian Wushuang, the sword light was divided into 4 streaks. A suffocating coldness arose. It struck terror into Jian Wushuang's heart. He went pale and immediately swung his sword to resist the attack. Clang! 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 After 4 confrontations, Jian Wushuang's arm became numb so that he was barely unable to hold his sword. How powerful! Jian Wushuang was shocked. He knew that he was inferior to any universe god at the peak of first heaven, but he did not expect that the gap would be as big as this. If universe god Chen used his full strength, Jian Wushuang would be unable to deflect a few attacks. Jian Wushuang, you can't kill Zhuge Qiu with such strength. Show me your real killing moves, universe god Chen growled. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. Immediately. Phew! The sword light emerged, and the sword began to chant a tune. It sounded crisp and intoxicating. When the sword light appeared, the Lord of Scarlet Island and Man Yi could not help but look over at it. Universe god Chen was immediately influenced by a horrible soul attack. Humph! Although Universe god Chen made a little pale face as he snorted, his consciousness did not come to a halt. He immediately reacted in time, waving his hands to shatter the beautiful sword light. After breaking the sword light, Universe god Chen stood there silently for a while. He finally looked up to fix his eyes on Jian Wushuang. It is actually a consciousness attack. This consciousness attack is so powerful. I was almost trumped by it. Zhuge Qiu is not a universe god at the peak of first heaven, so it is understandable why it was impossible for him to block you. No wonder you killed him. I could only deal with an advanced first heaven universe god, but if I encounter a universe god at the peak of first heaven like you, it won't work, Jian Wushuang said. I'm afraid that those universe gods who have weak consciousnesses won't be able to resist such an attack in time. Universe god Chen smiled. His complexion had recovered at that moment. Okay, stop here. Lord of Scarlet Island spoke. Jian Wushuang and universe god Chen naturally did not continue to fight. Jian Wushuang, do you know why I wanted to meet you and let you spar with universe god Chen? Lord of Scarlet Island asked while staring at Jian Wushuang. I have no idea. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Chapter 1283, A Great Favor. Jian Wushuang really did not know why Lord of Scarlet Island asked him to fight universe god Chen again. But he knew it was not because that he was curious about his battle strength. Lord of Scarlet Island smiled and said, I received the news saying the reason you could kill Zhuge Qiu was that you possessed a kind of realm technique in addition to your own strength. That skill restrained Zhuge Qiu from giving his strength a full play. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. The Blaze Quicksand realm really played a big role as he killed Zhuge Qiu. Realm techniques are rarely seen. You are just a universe master, but you managed to display a realm that could put pressure on a first heaven advanced universe god. So I guess you must have a high-grade realm technique, at least at the Chaos Magic Treasure level. I asked you to fight universe god Chen because I want to feel the power of that realm personally. Lord of Scarlet Island smiled. The result. The realm you've just displayed is entirely composed of blaze quicksands, if I am not wrong. Blaze quicksand is a horrible substance in the eternal chaotic world. A realm that is formed completely by blaze quicksands is surely formidable. Since you are just a universe master, you are unable to fully exert the real power of this realm. I cannot imagine how horrifying it would be if it were executed by an ordinary universe god or a second heaven universe god. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang knitted his brows. Obviously, Lord of Scarlet Island coveted his blaze quicksand gourd. As if he had seen through Jian Wushuang's thought, Lord of Scarlet Island looked at Jian Wushuang again and smiled. Jian Wushuang, don't worry. Your realm technique is indeed precious and I am tempted by it. If you were not a member of Scarlet Island, I don't mind killing you and snatching your treasures. He paused for a while and continued, however, you are an expert at Scarlet Island. As the Lord of Scarlet Island, I'm ashamed of robbing my subordinate of his belongings. Jian Wushuang was speechless. Yes, if Lord of Scarlet Island coveted his blaze quicksand gourd, he would not allow Man Yi and universe god Chen stood beside him. Jian Wushuang, I mentioned your realm technique due to a favor. Lord of Scarlet Island added.
A favor?
Jian Wushuang was confused. Yes, a great favor. Lord of Scarlet Island smiled and asked, Jian Wushuang, do you know who is the real local tyrant of Dayu region? Of course, it's the Dayu Palace. Jian Wushuang replied. Yes, the Dayu Palace. Lord of Scarlet Island nodded. Although our Scarlet Island, the Golden Sun sect, and the Holy Prefecture fight each other fiercely in Dayu region and our strength is formidable, in fact, none of us dares to violate the Dayu Palace. To put it bluntly, we must do whatever the Dayu Palace orders obediently. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Although what Lord of Scarlet Island said was not pleasant to the ear, he was telling the truth. The Dayu Palace was a force of real supremacy in Dayu region. The most supreme one in the Dayu Palace is its palace master, who is a genuine third heaven universe god. He is a real supreme expert in Dayu region. Lord of Scarlet Island continued, 300 years ago, Master of Dayu Palace spread the news that he was badly in need of a high-grade realm treasure or secret skill. Knowing that, all the forces in Dayu region were shocked and experts from all forces offered their realm treasures and secret skills in order to gain his favor. But it was a pity that none of them met his requirements. Jian Wushuang understood all this now. You mean that my Blaze Quicksand Gourd probably can meet his requirements? Jian Wushuang frowned and asked. Yes. Lord of Scarlet Island nodded and said, if he displays such a realm personally, its power must be earth-shattering. So I assume it can meet his requirements. Furthermore, he said that he just wants to borrow it for some time and will return it when his matters are done. Lord of Scarlet Island cast a glance at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, now that you have killed Zhuge Qiu and a core disciple from the Holy Prefecture, they definitely will try every possible method to kill you. Although the Master of Golden Sun sect are not certain that you killed Jin Feng, he will not let you go easily. That is to say, you are now in a very bad situation. Jian Wushuang's face fell. He was aware Lord of Scarlet Island was telling the truth. Both the Holy Prefecture and the Golden Sun sect would pose a great threat to him. As the Divine General of the Scarlet Island, I surely will try my best to protect you. But if the two overlords put pressure on me, I probably cannot resist that. Moreover, you cannot always hide in the headquarters of the Scarlet Island. Therefore, at this critical moment, if you can obtain the favor of Master of Dayu Palace, you will benefit immensely. With his deterrent, be it the Holy Prefecture or the Golden Sun sect, they would weigh the gains and losses carefully before striking you. You can even ask Master of Dayu Palace to return your favor by solving this matter for you. If so, the Holy Prefecture and the Golden Sun sect will never dare to attack you again. Do you understand what I mean? Lord of Scarlet Island asked. Yes, I do. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Of course he did. Great trees were good for shade, not to mention a towering tree like Master of Dayu Palace. If he really could gain his favor, the Holy Prefecture and the Golden Sun sect could not threaten him anymore. However, I must not rely solely on the protection of others concerning my enmity between the Holy Prefecture and the Golden Sun sect. What matters the most is my strength. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and made a decision. Jian Wushuang, are you willing to lend your Blaze Quicksand Realm to Master of Dayu Palace temporarily? Lord of Scarlet Island inquired. Of course. Jian Wushuang nodded. It was worthwhile to lend it to Master of Dayu Palace temporarily in exchange of his favor. In that case, I'll take you to the Dayu Palace to meet him at once. Lord of Scarlet Island said. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded. They immediately moved toward the Dayu Palace. Chapter 1284, The Present. Dayu Palace, as an emperor force of Dayu world, hid in misty mountains. Between countless and endless of mountains, Dayu Palace sect was situated inside an extensive cave mansion. Master of Scarlet Island, I have told His Highness that you have arrived. His Highness, together with Lord Wu Kang, are presently on their way, said a white sector god within Dayu Palace. Lord Wu Kang is here as well. Master of Scarlet Island was taken aback. Lord Wu Kang has been residing in Dayu Palace this entire time. He seems to be working together with His Highness to come up with a strategy. White Sector God explained. A strategy? Master of Scarlet Island appeared more bewildered. Master, who is Lord Wu Kang? Jian Wushuang, who was beside Master of Scarlet Island, asked in confusion. Before Master of Scarlet Island could even open his mouth, White Sector God has already started explaining. Lord Wu Kang is from Snow Kingdom, who is also a universe god of third heaven, like our highness. A universe god of third heaven? Jian Wushuang faltered. At his current level, a universe god of second heaven would have already greatly surpassed him in terms of power. A universe god of third heaven could probably kill him even with a single breath. Without waiting for a long time in the palace, Jian Wushuang and Master of Scarlet Island soon see two figures walking in. Amongst the two, one of them had all white hair and his movements appeared to be very sage-like. As for the other, he was clad in a black robe, a middle-aged man sporting a messy hairdo. Greetings, Your Highness, my lord. Master of Scarlet Island, who ruled both the Scarlet Island and Dayu world, was a man with a commanding presence. Yet at this exact moment, he was giving the two people in front of him a bow. With Master of Scarlet Island acting as such, Jian Wushuang naturally became very respectful. Get up. As the elder waved his hand, both Master of Scarlet Island and Jian Wushuang rose. I heard you brought a realm treasure for me. Master of Dayu Palace looked down at them. Yes. Nodded Master of Scarlet Island. However, it is not mine. It belongs to the divine general of my Scarlet Island, Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang? This young man of lowly status standing beside you, Master of Dayu Palace glanced at Jian Wushuang. Just his gaze was enough to make the hair on Jian Wushuang's back stood all at once. That feeling was as though all of his secrets were being exposed to the other in front of him. Incredible. Jian Wushuang felt secretly amazed. A universe god of third heaven is a real expert. Even in the eternal chaotic world, he is a true warrior, certainly impressive. Jiyu King, a parasite inside of Jian Wushuang's body, continued. Jian Wushuang, bring out the golden gourd. Master of Scarlet Island commanded. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly before revealing the golden gourd all at once. This is the gourd. Master of Dayu Palace scanned the golden gourd with a placid expression, seemingly indifferent. Since he has announced the need for a realm treasure or a form of secret skill 300 years ago, numerous people strove to send one and another treasure. The amount of treasures received were countless, but ultimately none achieved his standard. As such, he has long been exhausted by gimmicks. Up to 100 years ago, as long as one sends another kind of realm treasure that was not up to standard, the universe god of Dayu Palace would not even bother to inform him. Today, if it was not for Master of Scarlet Island, he would not even have shown up at all. And now, upon his arrival, he was greatly disappointed. This is as the treasure did not belong to Master of Scarlet Island but belonged to merely a young boy of low status, Jian Wushuang. What kind of realm treasure could a mere universe master even present? Master of Dayu Palace no longer harbor any hope towards Jian Wushuang. Master of Scarlet Island has obviously noticed this at this juncture and signaled to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang simply nodded his head before pulling out the stopper on the golden gourd. Boom! Endless golden quicksand instantly burst out from the gourd, expanding across the whole palace, eventually covering the entire palace cave mansion completely. In spite of being indifferent just a while ago, Master of Dayu Palace's eyes immediately twinkled upon seeing what the golden gourd could do. This is the golden drift sand? Standing beside Master of Dayu Palace, the middle-aged man sporting an untidy hairdo, Lord Wu Kang, abruptly raised his head at once. After observing the surrounding endless of quicksand for a moment, he eventually locked his sight on the golden gourd in Jian Wushuang's hands. This gourd, is this the golden drift sand gourd? Wu Kang's voice sounded a little hoarse. Golden drift sand gourd? Master of Dayu Palace lit up as he has obviously heard of its name as well. The golden drift sand gourd already had significant popularity in the eternal chaotic world and was rather established. However, its price was astoundingly expensive. With conservative estimate, the value of the golden drift sand gourd exceeds 600,000 chaos gem. In an event where one was to bump into another who need the gourd desperately, or if it was to be placed at some high-scaled auction for sale, it could even be sold up to millions of chaos gem. Undoubtedly, this golden drift sand gourd is a very powerful and valuable realm treasure. Brother Wu Kang, with your capability, what are the chances of succeeding if you were to exude your powers to activate the Golden Drift Sand Gourd, together with the realm, to pass the secret land? Master of Dayu Palace immediately looked at Wu Kang beside him, his eyes ablazed. I have only heard about the Golden Drift Sand Gourd before but have never seen it, so I am unsure of the strength of its power. However, it is immensely famous. Surely its powers would not be any subpar. Compared to the other realm treasures or skill that others have sent in the last couple hundred of years, it must be a lot more powerful. Given my capability, with the help of the Golden Quicksand Realm, I would have at least 50% chance of overcoming the test within the secret realm. Wu Kang proclaimed. 50%? Master of Dayu Palace was overjoyed. He and Wu Kang once coincidentally explored and found a secret land. The secret land was very unique, different from the norm, and contained mysterious opportunities to be discovered. They paid a huge price to enter that secret land. Unfortunately, there lies a grave test within the secret land. Despite trying many times to pass the test, they always end in failure, ultimately having to leave. Yet when they came back, through relentlessly studying about the secret land, they came to a conclusion that they would need the help of a type of realm technique in order to have a chance to overcome the test. This was how the quest and word of finding a treasure circulated as Master of Dayu Palace continues to search for the treasure for many years. Throughout several hundreds of years, Master of Dayu Palace and Wu Kang both mobilized their powers to search for a piece of realm treasure that could meet their requirement. Yet 300 years down the road, even with the best form of realm skill, they only had up to 30% chance of passing the test. Now, with the help of the Golden Drift Sand Gourd, the possibility of passing the test is actually 50%? 50%, that is already by itself tremendous. This was sufficient for them to take the risk and give it a try. After a moment of exchange between Master of Dayu Palace and Wu Kang, they turned around and finally set their sights on Jian Wushuang. Kiddie, what's your name again? Chapter 1285, Exchange. Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang answered. Even if the two were much more powerful than him, Jian Wushuang was still neither humble nor arrogant. You are just a universe master. It's impressive to see you have a treasure like the Golden Drift Sand Cucurbit. The Master of Dayu Palace smiled. He was in good spirits. At that time, the God in White said, Your Highness, although Jian Wushuang is just a universe master, he is super famous in Dayu world. He has killed an advanced universe god of the first heaven. Really? The Master of Dayu Palace was stunned. A universe master could kill an advanced universe god of the first heaven? Wu Kang was also surprised as he stared at Jian Wushuang. Ha, I never thought that Dayu world could have so many talents. There was a Qingyang universe god before, but now there is someone even stronger than him. The Master of Dayu Palace laughed, then he looked at Wu Kang and asked, Wu Kang, how many people in your snow dojo can rival this kid? The universe god is much more powerful than the universe master. It will be extremely hard to challenge the universe god to a battle in order to move up the ranks, not to mention kill the weakest universe god. In my snow dojo, there are countless geniuses. Among them, only 3 could kill an advanced universe god in the first heaven. Wu Kang was serious, his expression was subtle. Only 3. Then this kiddie could be the best of Snow Kingdom. The Master of Dayu Palace laughed again. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang was astonished. He had killed the advanced universe god in the first heaven. To other people, this was a miracle. However, there were still 3 geniuses like him in the Snow Dojo. How could it be? What exactly was the Snow Dojo? Jian Wushuang, you should not look down upon the talents in the eternal chaotic world. You are new here. In Dayu world, you are seen as someone gifted. However, it will be another situation when you go to other places. The 10 Cultivation Sanctuary is another situation entirely. Do you understand? The voice of Jiyu King arose. Yes. Jian Wushuang agreed. Jian Wushuang. The Master of Dayu Palace said, This Golden Drift Sand Cucurbit is truly useful to me. If you are willing to lend this to me for a short period, then I will owe you one. As long as it's within my power, you are allowed to ask me for any favor. Furthermore, this favor can't affect the balance of the Dayu world. For instance, You are not allowed to ask me to destroy one of the overlords of the Dayu world, such as Golden Sun Sect or Holy Prefecture. That would be impossible. Apart from this, you can ask anything you want. The master of Dayu Palace stood there with hands clasped behind his back cheerfully. Jian Wushuang was thinking. The god in white smiled. Jian Wushuang, as far as I know, the Holy Prefecture and the Golden Sun Sect both want you to die. You are in a bad situation. I'm afraid only Scarlet Island will be able to keep you safe. So why don't you ask His Highness to help you solve this problem? What's the problem between you, the Holy Prefecture, and the Golden Sun Sect? The master of Dayu Palace also smiled. Perhaps I can solve it for you. I promise that they won't come after you. Jian Wushuang, the master of Scarlet Island, urged. He also thought that Jian Wushuang would ask the master of Dayu Palace to end this. Jian Wushuang shook his head slowly. I will personally end this personal dispute between myself, the Holy Prefecture, and Golden Sun Sect. Your Highness shouldn't be bothered by it. Really? The master of Dayu Palace raised his eyebrows. The master of Scarlet Island and the god in white were both surprised. Jian Wushuang signed. During the road to the Dayu Palace, the master of Scarlet Island mentioned that every once in a while Your Highness will give lessons in the Dayu Palace. Those lessons are about cultivation, secret knowledge, and the Tao. Unfortunately, every time you give lessons, only the top geniuses in the Dayu Palace are qualified to attend. Moreover, everyone just has one chance to learn. This time, I had the opportunity. I will use this chance to take one of your lessons. Jian Wushuang's eyes were sparkling. He clenched his fists. Before he had arrived, he had already thought about how he would use this chance. If he used this to ask the master of Dayu Palace to help him solve the dispute between himself, the Holy Prefecture, and the Golden Sun Sect, it would be a waste. He needed to be the one to end this thing. He had caused it. Jian Wushuang wanted the opportunity to learn more than he wanted the situation to be resolved. For him, the lesson given by the master of Dayu Palace was an incomparable exchange. Especially if it were the one which could teach him how to pass the God test. According to what Jiyu King said, the master of Dayu Palace was a universe god in the third heaven. He had passed the God test. Furthermore, he understood what the God disaster essence was better than any other expert. Now, the hardest difficulty for Jian Wushuang was not the threat from the Holy Prefecture and Golden Sun Sect but his own inverse cultivation disaster. The inverse cultivation disaster was fatal. You want to listen to my lessons? The master of Dayu Palace must have thought Jian Wushuang was weird. Are you sure? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded solemnly. Hearing this, the master of Dayu Palace and Wu Kang glanced at each other. With that, the master of Dayu Palace laughed. In that case, I will meet your demand. In 80 years, I will give a lesson. You can attend then. In addition, before I return the Blaze Quicksand Gourd, you can stay at the Dayu Palace. In my palace, there are numerous treasures and manuals. You are my guest now, which means you can use any of them as you wish. Besides, you can exchange opinions with the geniuses and experts in my Dayu Palace if you have the leisure time. Jian Wushuang was surprised by all this. Chapter 1286. I'm ready. After the Lord of Dayu Palace and Wu Kang had retrieved the Blaze Quicksand Gourd, they left quickly. Jian Wushuang, this is your guest token. With this token, you can access most of the cultivating resources. I will arrange a residence for you. Please enjoy cultivating in the following days. The white-clothed universe god said as he handed a guest token to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took it. The identity of Dayu Palace's guest was important in Dayu world. Jian Wushuang, enjoy your cultivation in Dayu Palace. I have to go. See you. The Lord of Scarlet Island said to him. Thank you. Jian Wushuang nodded. The Lord of Scarlet Island left too. I will show you around and take you to your residence. Let's go. The white-clothed universe god began to show Jian Wushuang around. Dayu Palace was extremely large. It had a lot of places for trial and also treasure pavilions. Inside the treasure pavilion, there were countless treasures and manuals. Jian Wushuang visited these places under the guide of the white-clothed universe god. Because he was a guest, he had access to some cultivating resources in the palace. The white-clothed universe god showed Jian Wushuang around for a long time. Finally, they came to Jian Wushuang's residence. It was a large yard in the middle of a mountain. You can start your cultivation, Jian Wushuang. Contact me directly if you have any questions. 80 years later, I will inform you in advance if our master is about to give a lesson. Thanks a lot. Jian Wushuang said gratefully. As a senior universe god in Dayu Palace, the white-clothed universe god had started following the Lord of Dayu Palace long ago. In a way, the Lord trusted no one more than him. The Lord of Dayu Palace had little time to handle the affair, so the white-clothed universe god was responsible for them. Having seen him off, Jian Wushuang began to make a plan for his 80-year cultivation. He intended to make good use of the rich cultivating resources in Dayu Palace. 80 years seemed short, but it was enough for Jian Wushuang to improve his strength to a new level. Poof! A figure suddenly appeared in the yard where Jian Wushuang lived. It turned out to be a scarlet-robed young lady who was beautiful and valiant. Her aura spread quickly the moment she appeared. "Hi! Who are you?" Jian Wushuang asked in puzzlement as he came to her. "I am Su Dan, an inner disciple from Dayu Palace." Her eyes sparkled with battle intent. "You must be Jian Wushuang. I've heard of you. Not so long ago, you killed Zhuge Qiu from Holy Prefecture head-on. The elders of our palace, including the white-clothed universe god, felt amazed. They called you a true genius. They believed you were comparable to universe god Xianxia from Holy Prefecture. Maybe you are even stronger than him. Now that you are in our palace, I want to take this chance to battle you. Are you ready for it?" "Oh." Jian Wushuang chuckled. He finally understood that Su Dan meant to challenge him. "I'm ready." Jian Wushuang smiled. "Well, this is good. There it is." A glimmer of excitement flashed in Su Dan's eyes. Suddenly a jet-black longstaff appeared in her hand. Bang! As a vast aura surged from Su Dan, she immediately attacked. Su Dan was confident in her strength. She was a universe god at the first realm who had gone through the first god test. Although she was at the elementary level, her staff technique was extremely aggressive, enabling her to confront an ordinary advanced universe god at the first realm. However, she was far less stronger than Jian Wushuang. In an instant, her jet-black longstaff was hit away. "You lost." With the Blood Mountain sword in his hand, Jian Wushuang stood before Su Dan with a smile. It took Su Dan a long time to calm down. She looked back at him and said, "When I heard you killed an advanced universe god at the first realm as a universe master, I thought it was merely by chance. But now I know I'm wrong. My strength is worse than you indeed, but don't get cocky. I rank last among all the inner disciples. A lot of people are stronger than me. What's more, I come to challenge you because I met the white-clothed universe god just now. I'm the first one to challenge you. In the span of a few days, the news that you live here will spread throughout the inner palace, even the whole Dayu Palace. So many disciples of my inner palace have already heard of you and universe god Xianxia. I'm sure they will come to challenge you one after another. Jian Wushuang, a great many disciples in our palace are powerful. Not to mention there are 10 peak universe gods at the first realm. Things are gonna get much harder for you." Su Dan glanced at him mercifully and left. Jian Wushuang stayed where he was, confused. "The inner disciples will come to challenge me one after another?" Jian Wushuang felt strange but soon understood. The disciples of Dayu Palace, particularly the inner disciples, are geniuses with talents. Because Dayu Palace enjoyed a high status in Dayu world, it was rare for them to be evenly matched. As strong as these inner disciples were, they were never famous in Dayu world. Jian Wushuang did not hear of any geniuses in Dayu Palace. Instead, he and universe god Xianxia from Holy Prefecture gained much fame in Dayu world. So these talented inner disciples became defiant. Since Jian Wushuang arrived at Dayu Palace and lived there, they would certainly be able to have a chance. It was normal for them to challenge him one after another. Dayu Palace was acknowledged as the top palace in Dayu world. It has much more powerful experts than the 3 overlords. Besides, a group of talented disciples gathers in the inner palace. There are lots of strong universe gods at the first realm. There are even 10 peak universe gods at the first realm. Jian Wushuang said, becoming excited. Come on, come to challenge me. The more the better. The stronger the better. I'm ready. Chapter 1287, 80 Years. Jian Wushuang then resided in Dayu Palace. Whatever happened after was just like how Sudan said. When those inner disciples in Dayu Palace knew that Jian Wushuang resided there, they immediately came to challenge him. Jian Wushuang, let's battle. Jian Wushuang, I heard that your swordsmanship was extremely great. Even the advanced universe god in the first heaven, Zhugeqiu, was killed by you with one hit. I happen to be good at sword too. Let's fight a battle. Jian Wushuang, I don't believe that you can kill the advanced universe god in the first heaven with your status as a universe master, unless you win against my saber. There were too many challengers. There were almost 2 to 3 inner disciples that visited him every day. While Jian Wushuang kept an open house. Regardless who his opponent was, as long as his capability was of universe god in the first heaven, he would even accept the challenge of a peak universe god from the first heaven. His capability then was almost out of the running if he fought a pitch battle against the peak universe god in the first heaven, but he didn't mind much. In the countless fierce battles, whenever he come across inner disciple whose power died down, he would suppress his strength to compete against their unique skills and their techniques. If his opponents were to be relatively on par with him, or a peak universe god in the first heaven who was stronger than him, he would exert himself to the utmost during the battle. They were merely trying to see what they can learn from each other anyway. They wouldn't really take each other's lives. Even if he were to be defeated by his opponents, the inner disciples who won against him would only tease him, and that wouldn't affect him much. On the contrary, he could accumulate more experience through the battles he went through. He just got to Eternal Chaotic World, and he was really lacking the experience to fight against the universe gods. Besides, he was also training his swordsmanship simultaneously during the vigorous battles. With the cultivation resource in Dayu Palace, Jian Wushuang found a way to enhance his capability. During his time in Dayu Palace, he was never once held up. He was either fighting with the inner disciples in Dayu Palace or constantly learning using the cultivation resource there. The time passed slowly. In Holy Prefecture, the universe god Zhu Hai already found out that Jian Wushuang was living in Dayu Palace. Beastard, that boy possesses treasures that reach the requirement of the master of Dayu Palace? The eyes of the universe god Zhu Hai were gleaming with chill. The master of Dayu Palace passed on a message 300 years ago. As presents to the master of Dayu Palace, the Holy Prefecture sent many realm treasure and secret skills. It was a pity that it didn't reach the requirement of the master of Dayu Palace. But then, the treasure that Jian Wushuang handed in did. Mansion Master, Jian Wushuang earned the present of the master of Dayu Palace, and he has been residing in Dayu Palace. We have no way to deal with him. A purple-haired universe god in the Holy Prefecture said. Then, what did he exchange for with his present? Is he asking the master of Dayu Palace to come forward to settle the resentment between him and the Holy Prefecture? The universe god Zhu Hai asked. He didn't, the purple-haired universe god replied. According to the information we obtained from Dayu Palace, Jian Wushuang used the present in exchange for an opportunity to attend a class. Attend a class? The universe god Zhu Hai was surprised. A class taught by the master of Dayu Palace personally? Yes. The purple-haired universe god nodded. Humph. He didn't ask for the master of Dayu Palace to settle the resentment between us, but used it in exchange for a chance to attend a class. This Jian Wushuang is so arrogant. The universe god in the 9 oceans smirked. Luckily, he is arrogant. Then, we have the chance to kill him. Go, tell Xianxia to come here. The universe god in the 9 ocean commanded. Time flies. It had been 80 years. In Dayu Palace, in the courtyard where Jian Wushuang resided, there was 2 figures that flew past swiftly. One wouldn't be able to see their movement with naked eyes. Hooah! Hooah! 2 shadows of swords surged in a flash and clashed against each other in no time. At the very moment it clashed, a ray of the sword light dispersed into dozens of fine sword lights and struck like lightning. Dang! 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 Then, continuous clashing sounds could be heard. Swoosh! Swoosh! The two figures appeared on both ends of the courtyard. Jian Wushuang, your swordsmanship is getting more and more aggressive. A fair-skinned handsome youth with thin face kept his long sword into its scabbard as he spoke with a bright and clear voice. His voice reverberated within the courtyard. Jian Wushuang retrieved his Blood Mountain sword swiftly and flashed a smile when he heard what the handsome youth said. He replied, "Thanks to you, Dong Men, for the lesson that you gave me previously. With the pressure that you gave me, if my swordsmanship were to remain stagnant, wouldn't I come to a bad end?" Jian Wushuang was joking. The handsome youth was one of the inner disciples in Dayu Palace, Universe God Dong Men. Universe God Dong Men was a peak universe god in the first heaven and his swordsmanship was extremely high. Among the disciples in Dayu Palace, he would be in top 3. He was much stronger than Jian Wushuang in terms of capability. In the past 80 years, there were a large amount of inner disciples that challenged him in the beginning. But as time passed, there were less and less people who came to challenge him. On the contrary, he took an active role in challenging the inner disciples. Among the inner disciples that he challenged, Universe God Dong Men was the strongest of them all. Back when Jian Wushuang had his first battle with Universe God Dong Men, he was defeated miserably. However, after they fought for many times, the time that Jian Wushuang could defend himself against Universe God Dong Men's attack gradually grew longer. Then, although Jian Wushuang was still at disadvantage when he fought with Universe God Dong Men, the discrepancy between their capability wasn't as vast as before. Plus, Universe God Dong Men was good at swordsmanship too. In the process when he fought with Universe God Dong Men, Jian Wushuang was enlightened greatly. During his 80 years of practice, his swordsmanship improved significantly too. Among the biggest improvement was his self-invented unique skills, Nirvana and Chant of Disturbance. They have been constantly improvised in the 80 years. Then, they were already peak rank 1 unique skill. It was a pity that the 2 unique skills couldn't be merged with his Blood Mountain sword. Jian Wushuang, your capability now can almost compare favorably with peak universe god in the first heaven. With such capability, theoretically, you should break through and enter universe god. Why is your god test yet to come? Universe God Dong Men asked. God test. Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. It's not long since I made a breakthrough to Universe Master. It'd take some time before I undergo the God test. Is it so? Universe God Dong Men nodded and said, "You still have a while till your God test, but my God test is coming soon." Ha! Jian Wushuang looked at Universe God Dong Men in shock. 3 days. 3 days later, my God test will arrive. Universe God Dong Men announced. Chapter 1288, Tribulation Passing Pinnacle. 3 days? So soon? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. Soon? Universe God Dong Men smiled faintly. I've sensed the coming of the God test 200 years ago. I knew that the God test is coming soon, so I've been preparing for the past 200 years and I've delayed it for very long. Now, I can't push it any further, so I am preparing to undergo the tribulation in 3 days. Are you confident? Jian Wushuang asked. Confident? Universe God Dong Men shook his head. I am a universe god in the first heaven. I've passed the God test in the first heaven once. I was well prepared then and it was quite a smooth process, but this time, I'm going to undergo the God test in the second heaven. The God test in the second heaven is much tougher than the God test in the first heaven. Although I am well prepared after 200 years, I am only 30% confident that I will pass the God test. 30%? Jiang Wushuang creased his eyebrows. It's already very high to be 30% confident. An ordinary universe god mostly only about 10 or 20% confident when it comes to the God test in the second heaven. King of Venomous Worm's voice was heard in Jian Wushuang's mind. Jian Wushuang felt helpless too. 30% is really not little. Jian Wushuang, I'm going to undergo God test on Tribulation Passing Pinnacle in 3 days. Come over and watch. After all, it is just a matter of time for you to go through it. It'd be beneficial for you to feel the power of the God test ahead of time. Universe God Dong Men said. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. Universe God Dong Men then returned to prepare himself. The news about Universe God Dong Men undergoing the God test in the second heaven on tribulation passing pinnacle spread like wildfire in Dayu Palace. God test. It was a terrifying existence that would cause fear in all universe gods. Not one universe god who wasn't terrified about the God test. Of course, like the master of Dayu Palace, a universe god in the third heaven who already undergone the God test in the third heaven, was an exception. In Dayu Palace, there were a lot of universe gods and most of them were hovering in the first heaven. Hardly any of them transcended to second heaven. Every time there was someone undergoing God test, it would normally attract many universe gods to visit and draw on more experience. After all, watching other people undergoing God test was like accumulating experience for themselves when they undergo God test in the future. 3 days later, on the tribulation passing pinnacle, Universe God Dong Men sat cross-legged on the pinnacle all by himself. He closed his eyes faintly in order to indulge himself in his peak state. In the void far from tribulation passing pinnacle, a large amount of inner disciples from Dayu Palace stood there in silence. Jian Wushuang was among the crowd. Jian Wushuang, keep your eyes on him. It's rare to be able to see someone undergo God test. Although there is a huge difference between God test and inverse cultivation test, it would be beneficial for you if you could feel the power of the God test and get to be mentally prepared. King of Venomous Worms said. I know. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly, but his gaze was fixed on the figure on the peak of the tribulation passing pinnacle that was paying full concentration. Brother Dong Men, you must pass through. Jiang Wushuang murmured. For 80 years, he had been fighting with the inner disciples in Dayu Palace and there were some who shared good relationship with him. The one that was closest to him was naturally Universe God Dong Men. Jian Wushuang, of course, hoped for him to pass through God test in the second heaven. God test is in the brewing. King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang also noticed that in the void above the tribunal passing pinnacle, there was a huge dark cloud that covered the sky entirely. In the dark clouds, there were lightning striking. There was a terrifying imposing manner spread from the dark clouds that shook the sky. Such strong force. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He was far away from the dark clouds, but the force within the dark clouds was felt across the place and it was daunting. One could well imagine just how pressuring it was for Universe God Dong Men who stood right below the dark clouds and was fully engulfed by the God's test. Universe Dong Men belongs to a more ordinary cultivation, so it's not that bad. Theirs isn't anything too bizarre. Hence, the God test that he is undergoing is considered a normal thunder test, King of Venomous Worms said. Thunder test. Jian Wushuang was surprised. King of Venomous Worms explained, in Eternal Chaotic World, there are a variety of God tests. The more skillful a practitioner is, the more ferocious the God test that they undergo. However, the God test could simply be categorized into 3 types: thunder test, fire test, and mind test. Among the 3 God tests, thunder test is the most ordinary, followed by fire test. And the mind test is the most terrifying one. Universe God Dong Men is facing the ordinary thunder test. With his capability, if he was well prepared, the possibility of his success is not low. Jian Wushuang nodded in agreement, then suddenly asked oddly, my inverse cultivation test, would it be one of those? Inverse cultivation test? Most that I know of are, but yours might not be. In short, even if it was, you would definitely be dealing with the most terrifying mind test, King of Venomous Worms replied. Jian Wushuang was left speechless. He didn't pursue further but looked forward attentively. In the void above the tribunal passing pinnacle, the force within the dark clouds was getting more ferocious. Even though there was a long distance, the universe gods by the side were terrified too. Everyone was holding their breath. The God test has finished brewing. It's going to start soon. King of Venomous Worms said. On the peak of tribunal passing pinnacle, Universe God Dong Men, who had his eyes closed most of the time, noticed the movement in the void above. He suddenly lifted his head and there was a sharp flash. Come on. Universe God Dong Men looked ferocious and there was an unprecedented craziness that surged in his eyes. Rumble. There was a bolt from the blue with a tremendous noise. From among the huge dark cloud, there was a faint gold lightning that descended. The faint gold lighting looked light in color but consisted terrifying power to break the sky and shatter the earth. The lightning descended and struck at Universe God Dong Men directly. The veins on Universe God Dong Men's forehead stood out, and the divine power in his body was surging and erupting without holding back. Break! Universe God Dong Men roared and swung his sword. The entire universe turned dark all of a sudden. A huge sword shadow became extremely significant in the dark. It was extremely swift too. It skimmed over the faint gold lighting in the blink of an eye. That is. For Jian Wushuang, who was watching from afar, his pupil dilated at the split second. He fought vigorously with Universe God Dong Men many times, and he knew of Universe God Dong Men's capability. Universe God Dong Men was putting his most powerful unique skill that he had invented to play. Universe God Dong Men straightway used his secret skill along with his most powerful unique skill. Jian Wushuang was surprised, but he creased his eyebrows. But would that be enough to defend him from the lightning? Although the faint gold lightning wasn't directed to Jian Wushuang, his soul power felt it long ago. The power of that faint gold lightning was definitely not any weaker than a full force attack by a universe god in the second heaven. Chapter 1289. The Power of God Test. Rumble. When everyone was holding the breath, the faint gold lightning that descended from the dark clouds finally collided directly with the swordsmanship that Universe God Dong Men had put to play. After a tremendous noise, everyone saw that the ground of tribulation passing pinnacle caved in while Universe God Dong Men fell into the bottom of the pit. He stood up after a while, but his clothes were all torn and turned black, even his originally fair skin became dark. He was covered in blood, and his aura was extremely weak. He survived. Jian Wushuang was beaming with joy. Don't be too happy just yet. It was merely the first strike. King of Venomous Worms said, Universe God Dong Men is undergoing his god test in the second heaven, so there are two levels of lightning. The very first one earlier was weaker. The second lightning would be much stronger than the first one, which is the real threat to him. If I were him, I would seize the time before the second lightning descends and take an elixir to recover, so that my body can resume to my peak. Then, I could be well prepared for the second lightning. Jian Wushuang's face grew solemn. Under Jian Wushuang's gaze, Universe God Dong Men, who was on the peak of the tribunal passing pinnacle, sat down and straightway took in the few elixirs that he had prepared. Those elixirs were prepared for him to pass through the god test. Among them, there was an extremely precious elixir, tribunal passing elixir. Universe God Dong Men took them all in a mouthful. With the power of the elixirs, Universe God Dong Men's aura recovered swiftly. He resumed to his peak in a short time. Not bad, he is well prepared. King of Venomous Worms joked. Dong Men has recovered to his peak state. It seems like the possibility of him passing through the second lightning should be quite high, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. In the void above tribunal passing pinnacle, among the huge dark cloud, the second lightning continued to store up its strength. Along with the accumulation, the force within the dark clouds were growing strong, even a little too ridiculously strong. Ha! The universe god from Dayu Palace felt the force and they creased their eyebrows. What is going on? Even though it is the second lightning, isn't this force a little too strong? It is a little too strong. When I undergo my god test in the second heaven, the force of the second lightning wasn't this strong. The force grew stronger, so doesn't it mean that the second lightning would be even more powerful? Why would it be so? Many faces of the universe gods in Dayu Palace grew grave. They could tell that the power of the second lightning was a little over, but they couldn't change anything even though they were anxious. God test, under normal situation, should be passed through alone. Although one could assist by force, once assistance was provided to pass through God test, both the person who was helped and the person who helped would be restrained in terms of growth. It would be impossible for both person to pass through their God test in the future. Hence, even though they knew Universe God Dong Men was in danger, no one dared to help. There was no one who could help. I thought Universe God Dong Men would be dealing with ordinary God test. But from the looks of it, it doesn't seem like it. King of Venomous Worms said. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows. I'm not sure, but it might be because of the massacre that he once caused. King of Venomous Worms replied. Massacre? Jian Wushuang stunned. Massacre would affect God test too? Of course, King of Venomous Worms explained, the more massacre there is, especially those that involved many innocent lives, it would affect God test accordingly. For instance, the people in Holocaust sect, they often slaughter massively and refined millions and millions of living things in order to build up their strength. Hence, the God tests that they need to pass through would be extremely terrifying too. Universe God Dong Men should have once caused a massacre when he was young. Is it so? Jian Wushuang's face grew grave. Just like how King of Venomous Worms had said, Universe God Dong Men once had an accident when he first sprang up in his hometown. He was once a mad demon and he killed many innocent people during that period of time. Hence, the record of massacre. Later on, even though he stabled down, it heavily affected the God test that he was going through. When he passed through the God test in the first heaven, the massacre that he caused didn't affect the God test much. However, when it came to the God test in the second heaven, it finally took shape. It seemed that Universe God Dong Men was afraid of trouble. King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang looked solemn. Universe God Dong Men stood on the peak of Tribunal Passing Pinnacle and already recovered to his tip-top condition. He lifted his head and stared into the void above. His eyes were full of insanity. Among the dark clouds, the second lightning had done storing up its strength. The terrifying force spread across long ago. Finally, the second lightning descended. Previously, the first lightning was merely faint gold, but the second lightning was gilded. The gilded lightning struck directly while Universe God Dong Men flipped his hand and a black turtle shell appeared. The black turtle shell gave out an ancient aura. Along with Universe God Dong Men's willpower, the black turtle shell started expanding and covered his entire body. Universe God Dong Men himself had a pair of eyes gleaming with lightning while his entire body was giving free rein of divine power. He was giving all his strength to put his strongest swordsmanship to play. Bang! The power of the lightning set off and it shattered the sword light that Universe God Dong Men gave out. Along with the explosion, the sword in his hand was casted off that instance. On the other hand, the gilded lightning continued to strike at Universe God Dong Men without hesitation. At the most crucial moment, it hit the black turtle shell on Universe God Dong Men. The black turtle shell presented its impressive protective power and endured the power of the gilded lightning. It didn't break directly under the hit. That sight shocked various universe gods that were spectating. Universe God Dong Men has such a treasure with him? That turtle shell should be a very impressive chaotic treasure, right? It provides quite good of a protection. Protection by the turtle shell. It seems that Dong Men should be fine. Universe gods from Dayu Palace let out a sigh of relief. Just then. No! A loud scream was heard from the peak of Tribunal Passing Pinnacle and everyone looked over. They saw that. An unprecedented terror across Universe God Dong Men's face. Just as everyone thought he would survive the second lightning, no one noticed that there was a fine emerald flame within the second lightning which broke through the defense of the turtle shell and ravaged Universe God Dong Men's body. The emerald flame looked extremely weak, as though it was going to die out anytime. But the moment it made contact with Universe God Dong Men's body, vroom. The emerald flame suddenly soared and Universe God Dong Men never made any other noise anymore. He was engulfed by the emerald flame entirely and suddenly vanished like smoke. Universe God Dong Men died. Chapter 1290. Xianxia's here. Rumble. The dark clouds in the sky dispersed and the God test, too, subsided entirely. But on Tribunal Passing Pinnacle, including the surrounding void, was deadly silent. It was silent as the grave, where one would be able to hear a pin drop. Universe gods from Dayu Palace, including Jian Wushuang, saw what happened earlier clearly, but everyone was left speechless. The transformation took place too quickly. When they saw that the black turtle shell on Universe God Dong Men's body resisted the gilded lighting, they subconsciously thought that there's hope for Universe God Dong Men to pass through the God's test. Who would have thought that Universe God Dong Men would vanish into thin air the very next moment? That's fire test. A universe god in the second heaven from Dayu Palace who was knowledgeable spoke and the void suddenly became noisy. It was really a fire test. King of Venomous Worms' voice was heard in Jian Wushuang's head too. It was also a god's test, but fire test is more terrifying by a few folds as compared to the thunder test. The second lightning that universe god Dong Men dealt with consisted of slight fire test. Although it wasn't complete, it went through the defense of Black Turtle Shell and killed him. Jian Wushuang felt heavy-hearted. He was quite close to universe god Dong Men. To see him ended up like that, Jian Wushuang naturally felt a heartache. That was the consequence of failing to pass through God test. King of Venomous Worms said coldly, in any cultivation, universe gods are walking through gate of hell at this state. They are required to walk through it thrice. Once they pass through thrice, they could become the real top expert. But the 3 god tests, one might die if they were to fail any of the god tests. Jian Wushuang heard and shook his head in silence. The pressure that he carried became heavier. Merely God test itself was known to be a situation which 1 survived but 9 died. Just like universe god Dong Men, who was already in the first heaven, well prepared and even protected by the Black Turtle Shell, ended up vanishing into thin air due to God test. But Jian Wushuang was going to undergo inverse cultivation test, which was few times more terrifying than the God test. Universe god Dong Men failed to pass the God test in the second heaven and ended up vanishing into thin air. Although the outcome saddened many of them, they have no choice but to accept it. It was a God test after all. Every universe god had to face it. The crowd surrounding the tribunal passing pinnacle dispersed very soon. Everyone was in distress when they left. Jian Wushuang left tribunal passing pinnacle too and returned to the courtyard where he stayed. He just returned and he received a message from the White Sector God. Jian Wushuang, the palace master sent a message to you. You shall be prepared for a class at Fairy Palace in a month's time. It's happening? Jian Wushuang clasped his hands together and began to look forward to the class. Jian Wushuang witnessed the dreadful God test with his own eyes, and he was dying to obtain some experience of passing through God test from the master of Dayu Palace. A month's time passed by quickly. In Fairy Palace, Dayu Palace. The Fairy Palace was where the master of Dayu Palace teaches. It was a majestic hall. The Fairy Palace was normally closed but only opened when the master of Dayu Palace teaches. In front of the Fairy Palace, Jian Wushuang arrived ahead of time and waited patiently. Then, there were 3 other people next to him. Jian Wushuang knew the 3 of them. They were all inner disciples of Dayu Palace and they were the utmost excellent ones, especially the leader among the 3, the youth with evil charm who was in a red robe. The youth with evil charm was called Chu Xiao. He was generally recognized as the top among all inner disciples in Dayu Palace, a definite genius. There were many universe gods in the first heaven in the palace, and Chu Xiao was considered the first in capability. Even universe god Dong Men, who failed to pass through the god's test and fell, was a notch below as compared to Chu Xiao. You are Jian Wushuang? Chu Xiao looked at Jian Wushuang and asked. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. I always hear people talking about you in Dayu. They say that your talent is no weaker compared to universe god Qingyang from Holy Prefecture. It's a pity that you are still a universe master. After you break through and become a universe god, I'd be delighted to meet up with you. Chu Xiao said with a smile. Jian Wushuang lifted his eyebrows. Chu Xiao had been traveling around and only rushed back 2 days ago. Hence, he didn't have the chance to fight him. From the sound of it, Chu Xiao obviously meant that Jian Wushuang, who was of universe master level, couldn't spike any interest. Chu Xiao was stronger than universe god Dong Men. Although I have improved tremendously over the past 80 years, I could barely fight against a peak universe god in the first heaven. I could only run for my life when I fight against universe god Dong Men. If I were to fight against Chu Xiao, I am really not his match. Jian Wushuang knew where he stood. Just then, there were 2 figures that flew over from the void before them. Then, they landed in front of the Fairy Palace. Among the 2 of them, one was the White Sector God who was in charge of all affairs within Dayu Palace, and the other one was a purple-haired youth who dressed luxuriantly and looked handsome. Ha! Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows and couldn't help but looked at the purple-haired youth. He lit his soul fire. His sensitivity to soul power was much stronger compared to everyone else at the scene. He could clearly feel that although the purple-haired youth was merely a universe god in the first heaven, the hidden aura was extraordinarily fierce. It was much stronger than any other universe god in the first heaven that Jian Wushuang had come across. Even if compared to the number one inner disciple in Dayu Palace, Chu Xiao, the purple-haired youth seemed to be slightly superior. In Dayu world, stronger than Chu Xiao among the universe gods in the first heaven, would he be? Jian Wushuang's pupils dilated in shock as he could guess who the other person was. While Chu Xiao and the other two inner disciples of Dayu Palace, too, fixed their gazes at the purple-haired youth. Universe god Qingyang. Chu Xiao's voice was cold, but the aura in his body was surging. That's right. The person gained fame in Dayu world long ago and had always been known as the number one genius in Dayu world, Universe god Qingyang. Universe god Qingyang had yet to live more than 50,000 years as of then. But in the 50,000 years, he had risen in a massacre. He created a legend in the bloodbath. Not only was his cultivation period extremely short, but his fighting power was also extremely ferocious. He was merely a universe master then, but he was generally recognized as the number one in Dayu world. When he passed through his god's test and became universe god in the first heaven, he was known as the strongest among universe gods in the first universe. Just as Jian Wushuang had yet to rise up, there wasn't any genius in Dayu world who could be compared to him. Just like the inner disciples in Dayu Palace, many of them were geniuses, but none of them were as dazzling as universe god Qingyang. Even Chu Xiao, who was the most impressive among the inner disciples, was slightly inferior compared to universe god Qingyang in terms of rising time and dazzling level. Chu Xiao thirsted to vie with universe god Qingyang to see who was better, but he never had a chance to. Then, he finally saw universe god Qingyang in person.